Hey Jessica, how you doing? All right, I was just going through your reading. I totally agree with this. It's there's an order that you need to follow, and there's only one way to figure that order out, and that's to do it once. And I think that including the printed portion of this project teaches students so much about production itself and really general organization pointing towards production. So I think it's fantastic that we have the opportunity to print here. So plus, as you say, it's just so cool to be able to take your layout and hold it in your hand as a multi-page booklet. And for a lot of students in this class, this is the first opportunity that you've had to do that, because I think uh, it's probably reasonable to say that a lot of the students in this class thus far have only had experience with single page design. So having this multi-page experience under your belt is just fantastic. Um, okay, yeah, let's jump into it. So I see you've got your picks and your digital. So let's go to the digital first. Okay, so this is really solid. Isn't this amazing? Just how this just locks things in and just holds it together. I love it. A little bit of alignment goes a long way. Just for giggles and grins, if you've got the old iteration up with your name that was pushed over to the right a little bit, try taking a look at two of them, and you'll see what I mean. Just a little alignment goes such a long way. It's incredible. I think the cover looks fantastic. There's a few designers that might say something like this. The cover is really solid and laid out beautifully. There's one area of overlapping that's a little bit unusual, and that's this whole configuration right here, where this overlaps on this side, but this one overlaps on this side. What I would recommend doing is trying to avoid that overlap. It's not important, it's personal preference. I don't think it hinders the layout of the book at all. But when you're preparing your final work for your student portfolio, when that time comes, you might try tucking this image behind and moving it down, or finding another image that happens to fit in there. It could entail doing some cropping, but that's perfectly fine. So what we would see is this would be one area that's taken up, and then this area right here would be again. So there's no overlapping going on. Again, I'm really super nitpicking here, but it's something that you might consider at that time. Okay, but I think the cover looks really amazing. Good job. You've got the feel you were looking for, as well as the kind of modern kind of tip to the hat to comic book design, which is just a. But I'm glad you didn't take it too far, because that's just a minor portion of Chip Kid's body of work, so to speak. Is that kind of magazine, that kind of comic. So I'm glad you didn't push that all the way. Okay, typeset looks really gorgeous. I mean, it's actually beautiful. You've got this down. This is justified type, and you've got it down. I don't see any rivers or any packed areas that create too much attention. So nice job reducing the size of your numerals. But what I'm not seeing, excuse me, I didn't see the all caps being reduced. So remember to reduce that about. Yeah, let me just do something real quick. It's really difficult to tell, but I'm going to try to do that. Yeah, that DC wasn't reduced. So that you would just select that and then just drop it by 1 point size in terms of scale. This looks fantastic. Okay, now I just want to draw your attention to a little inconsistency here. This is gorgeous typesetting, right? You've got this beautiful space between good kerning, good letting, nice and open, very light typographic color, very inviting. You got this nice, beautiful space before to demarcate your new paragraph. But when we come down here, and you've got the same thing here, and I'll get to this page in a second. But when we come down here, there's no space to demarcate the new paragraph, and there's no indent. Now, as we know, there's two different ways to demarcate a paragraph. Well, actually, there's a few, but the two major ones are an indent or a space before. And these ones have this beautiful space before, but this one has neither. So a little inconsistency there. Okay, so back to the next page. This is pretty interesting, kind of this configuration here, this setup that is continued to the next page. So I thought that was pretty interesting. That's good. I like that. These two pages look great. Okay, then we have the early work. This looks fantastic as well. Another page of beautiful typesetting. Well, good job reducing your size of the. This is fantastic. You've learned a lot. I mean, you've learned a lot, and it certainly shows here. Good job fixing this page up. Definitely. Looks like we've got an even. Yeah, we fixed up the leading on that. That's fantastic. Nice. Okay, great. Okay. Okay. Again, at the end, that space. That's the only thing on this page. Ted, that would be small caps. That would be reduced, just like you reduced the numerals or the figures. You would just go ahead and reduce that all caps in your all caps areas. Okay, listen, I got to tell you something right here. Great job adding the quote. It really adds a lot to this page, right? But let me give you a little technique here. Right now, the quote is separated from the image of Chip Kidd. And the reason I say that is because it's placed in a block, in a color background. And I know it's something that probably seems innocuous, but it does draw some separation from the page. We want this quote to belong to this image. So I would say just assemble this type right over the image. Forget the box. Right over the image, and I think we could even probably, yeah, we can definitely increase the line length too. So you can span the whole image. Watch my cursor, something like this, with the quote. And I would left align that quote also, so just to follow what you have going on here right now. This looks a little odd with this center align configuration. So I would definitely, plus you get to show off that hanging quote, and as a portfolio piece, I think that's really important. And I'm going to tell you the reason why, because that's some hanging quotes, and you've done a great job. You've even hung your punctuation in your references and closure area. I was so glad to see that. Look at that. Nice, nice. Yep, hanging quotes. That's nice. And that's an advanced technique, and I think that's something that will be noticed, but we want to draw attention to it. Let's just go ahead and left align that and go ahead and hang that quote. And I think that'll really make it obvious to a portfolio reviewer or a hiring professional when that time comes that you've been paying attention. Okay, other than that, I think that's it. So let's go ahead and jump over to the images, and these are great. One thing I want to mention about production. Yeah, really good job. One thing I want to mention about production is a lot of times when I'm shooting work for a portfolio or presentation, I will use a thicker paper than I would normally use. And the reason is for situations like this. You see that page where it kind of folds? So you print it out on thicker paper just for presentation so you can shoot it, but the actual booklet would be on the regular paper that you would choose to print the book on. And that's just for presentation's sake, as I said. And when I say thicker paper, I don't mean much at all. I just mean enough that's going to be able to hold up. These things right here, you don't want these kind of bends in your photography. Even I would even do at different times. What I've even done is take a small straw and tape it to the back of this just to give it some rigidity. A lot of little tricks that you can do. Just noticed something. Oh, okay. And then I just want to make one more comment on production. Is right now this is not printed full bleed, so I'm not rushed. Oh, by the way, also in portfolio presentation photography stuff like this, what I would typically do is I would put this in Photoshop and I would edit out that little wrinkle right there, and any kind of little wrinkles I would try to edit those out with your stamp tool. Excuse me. Okay, at any rate, at this point, I would say I just want to mention one thing. You got this white around here, so technically what you could do to avoid that, if you want this to full bleed, is you just put crop marks on your page so that when you have it printed, But if you print it at home, you're not going to be able to print to the edge of the page, most likely. Kinko's printers will be able to, but what you would do is just crop mark these and then tell them you want these pages cropped before the book is assembled. Okay, and that's it. All right, fantastic job. Any questions at all, please let me know. Great job. Very, very good. Thanks so much for sharing.